down here. We are doing mock drafts from all 12 spots in a 12-team half-point PPR. Going to do a couple other ones throughout the season, but this is how we prepped for last fantasy season, and it went pretty well, so we're doing it again. So, wherever you are consuming this, the first 5 mock drafts are up now, so check those out. But let's get into it now and do one here from pick number 6, the halfway point. All right, we'll hit OK, and we will get going. So first, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Christian McCaffrey comes off the board 4th, followed by Jamar Chase. And now it is our turn. And so when we look at who is available here, Bijan Robinson is the top back available, top player available according to ADP, followed by Breece Hall, also available at running back, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. At wide receiver, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown as well, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison, Drake Leonard, and Devontae Adams are the ones here. Bijan feels like the easy pick. You could certainly make a case for Breece Hall as well, but in this spot, we are going to go Bijan Robinson with our spot. And so immediately Breece Hall goes right after that, followed by the 2 Browns and Wilson. Kyren Williams at the back half of the first round. That seems just way too expensive for me. Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, at the turn there, then Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams, and Saquon Barkley. And so we are here now with Travis Etienne at running back. We also have Derrick Henry available, Devon Achane, and Josh Jacobs. At quarterback, Josh Allen is up there. And then at wide receiver, it is Olave, Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Mike Evans. We have been getting Deebo a fair amount in these drafts. This one, it feels a little bit high to get. I'm going to try something here because, like, as much as I appreciate that I was wrong on ETN a season ago, I still don't know if I want him just locked in as one of my top 2 picks. So I am going to go with the quarterback, Josh Allen. We've been waiting on quarterback right around the Kyler Murray time. Let's see what it looks like when we do take Josh Allen with our second round pick and just see what these drafts look like at the quarterback spot. So Etienne, Olave, Henry go after us along with Achane, Laporta, and Kelsey, so a couple of tight ends come off. Pacheco, Jacobs, Deebo Samuel does come right off of the board. And so immediately we see maybe a flaw in our plan because Jalen Hurts is right there. And so is Patrick Mahomes. And so is Lamar Jackson. And so if you're going to go quarterback early, maybe it feels like round 3 is the way to go. Mike Evans would be a fine start at wide receiver number 1, along with Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore. There's also Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, and Michael Pittman all available. But not a ton for running backs in this spot. Honestly, James Cook is probably the most tempting in this area. And then admittedly, like after this, it does kind of fall a little bit. So, man, it feels weird to just pass up wide receiver already. Like at this point, most drafts we've had 2, but we're going to keep passing it up. We're going to go 0 WR in this one. And we are going to go with one who I think is going to be a major breakout this year in James Cook. And so we got that, we got that Buffalo offense that everyone's so excited about. Immediately after us goes Diggs, Collins. We got a couple quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts coming off the board. Patrick Mahomes comes off as well. And now it comes back around to us here in round number 4. Now, there are a few running backs that are available. So I think already we've made a couple tactical errors here. I think we went around too early on Allen, and maybe we went around too early with Cook. So maybe like getting probably Nico Collins would have been the play for me. Mike Evans in that spot as well. And then come back here now with Joe Mixon as our RB2. I think that would have been a pretty good spot to get that. Cooper Kupp, I'm worried about that offense. And specifically Matthew Stafford going down with an injury. Zay Flowers, I think, is a fine pick. Tank Dell, I think, is all right as well. Sorry, I forgot to push this up. So there you see the top 4, if you're watching on YouTube, the top 4 that are available in half-point PPR. And so we're in a tricky spot here right now because there isn't a whole lot of receivers that I love, but it does start to fall off here. And so it feels like we need to get one of them. Even if there's an injury at quarterback, Kupp, I think, can be fine. It's just if there's an injury to him, I get a little bit worried, but we are going to go Cooper Kupp in this spot. Immediately after a couple of tight ends go, with Mark Andrews and Trey McBride, CJ Stroud goes as well. One of the RBs comes off the board in Kenneth Walker. Another quarterback and another tight end in Kincaid come off. So again, we're in a spot where like Joe Mixon is right there for us. That just feels like such a great pick here in this spot. But we are getting to the point where I'm losing my safety net at tight end, and I want to get that. So we're going to go George Kittle here at the tight end spot. Get that one really kind of locked in. I don't want to be playing around in the mid to late part of tight end all season long. And Kyle Pitts does come off of the board in that spot. Joe Mixon went a couple picks after us. And so it loops back around. In my mind, I'm thinking we need to get a receiver. The best available right now is Keenan Allen. And looking at the players here, this is kind of why we've waited on quarterback to this point, because there's no one in this area that really jumps out to me as I need to get this guy. When we look at the top four available, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, and Rome Odunze, I don't need the third best wide receiver in Chicago in this spot. And the other ones like Xavier Worthy could be great, but this feels like a wild overpay. Chris Godwin, I have worries about him maybe falling off a little bit. Evan Ingram isn't for me, so this is where Kyler has kind of been the play. And so this, to me, does really validate not waiting too long on quarterback, but waiting on quarterback and getting to this point. So while we are here, we are kind of stuck. I've been getting this guy the whole time. I still think he's going to have a role in this Miami offense. I'm going Raheem Mostert with our selection here in the 6th round. After that, Dak comes off the board. For running backs, it's DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, and Zamir White. Jonathan Brooks comes off as well. For receivers, it was just Allen, Rice, and Odunze that came off of the board. And so looking at it now, we have Ingram, Worthy, Godwin, and Ridley as our top players available. After that, Tony Pollard is the best running back available, followed by Nick Chubb, Zach Moss, Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren being questionable stings a little bit. That's a player that we've kind of been targeting as this has gone along. Now that we're here into the 7th round, we still only have the one wide receiver. And so I feel like at this point, it's come to the area where taking a shot on Xavier Worthy, I don't think is absolutely devastating. We have built up our depth in other areas, so we feel all right about where we are at with Xavier Worthy. You guys know, if you've been watching, there are players that I am targeting now in around these areas, and most of them are wide receivers. And just for those who haven't been watching, it is Christian Watson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Jameson Williams. We have also been targeting Brian Williams in this area. And so those are a couple of very tempting plays right now. Even though like ADP, I feel like I could get one of them, but this is a spot where I think like I don't love any of the other options that are available. Nick Chubb, if he's great, could be a league winner. Zach Moss might get some volume and some touchdowns, but I don't love it. Javonte Williams, that actually may not be a bad pick, actually. But I really like these wide receivers, and so that's why we can go a little bit RB heavy in the beginning and wide receiver light in the back part, is because I do think once you get down to around 8, 9, 10th round, there are some guys that we can get that we feel comfortable with. So we're going to go with Watson. Moss comes off the board, Deontay Johnson. You have Benson. There, Javonte Williams goes at the beginning of the 9th. So we didn't necessarily get the guy who we wanted there. But as it swings back around to us, Austin Eckler is available. And so that makes it a little bit tempting, but the guy we really do want in this area, it has been Jackson Smith and Jigba. As I've been thinking about it more, Jameson Williams is creeping up in my mind a little bit, but we are still going to go Jackson Smith and Jigba in this spot, and maybe Williams can swing back around to us. Eckler and Robinson both come off the board. Robinson was one I was kind of hoping, and there goes Jameson Williams. So was probably pie in the sky to think that we could get both or all three, I guess, in this spot. Would have been nice, but we don't quite lock it down. Now here's a spot that there are a couple of running backs who I am interested in here. Jerome Ford, I think is going to have a fair amount of the backfield in Cleveland this year, and I actually think he was quite good. So I think that's an interesting play. And Chase Brown, admittedly, I heard Chris Harris talking him up the other day. Chase Brown was a player that I wouldn't hate getting in this spot now. And so there's a few running backs that are starting to creep up. The wide receivers have fallen off. This is where I think we now build up our running back depth. I'm still going to go with Jerome Ford here. maybe it swings back around, but Ford is definitely the one that I want to come away with. Chase Brown. So again, team one, we might try to work out a trade at some point because they got a couple of the running backs that we like. And then after this, it's kind of auto pick for me. With Zach Charbonnet here in the 11th round. I think people are really underestimating the amount of volume that he is going to get in this offense this year. And so Zach Charbonnet is definitely the pick to click for me in the 11th round. And now after this, there have been a couple of occasions where we've looked at our defense and our kickers. When you look at what's available here still, there's 4 rounds left. Couple more tight ends coming off the board. Aaron Rodgers coming off the board here in the 12th. And so best players available right now, Joshua Palmer, Jerry Jeudy, and Rashid Shaheed for wide receivers. At quarterback, it is Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford. At running back, it's Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, Marshawn Lloyd, and Tyler Algier. There's just nothing that's really jumping off to me. And so I think I can get ahead of things on the defensive side. We will go with the New York Jets defense here and lock that one. And you can go San Francisco as well. I don't think there's a wrong play there, which is why maybe it's the smarter move to wait another round. But looking at what went off the board between that pick and now ours, Shaheed, Jeudy, Palmer, Lloyd out of Green Bay. Downs is the one in Indy where it's like, oh man, that one might have been nice. But I just don't trust that offense this year. Brandon Cooks, Matthew Stafford, Rico Dowdle, Tyler Algier, and then the 49ers defense. We are still going to wait the 15th round, maybe even the 14th to get our kicker. But now looking at what is left, Kirk Cousins, best quarterback available by a ton. Receivers, Gabe Davis, Jahan Dotson, Jalen Polk, Ricky Pearsall, and Troy Franklin. At running back, Ty Chandler and Antonio Gibson are still available in these spots. You have to scroll down a ways to get some of the other guys who are kind of popping up. But I think Polk is interesting. It sounds like that offense maybe isn't going to be as dumpster fiery, and he is a player where if it doesn't look like it's working in week 1, I can just drop and it's fine. And so maybe to get ahead of the kicker thing, we go here in the 14th round, because again, there just aren't a whole lot of guys who I'm clamoring for position player wise. And even now there are a bunch of kickers coming off of the board. And so we'll go, let's go Jake Moody for San Francisco. Keep that kicker run rolling. And then we will get our final player here with our last selection as the kicker and defense run continues to go along. So it comes to us. Kirk Cousins is still available. Which honestly, like, not the worst. If we hadn't gone Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins as a pick that's available, I think is interesting. There isn't a whole lot here, to be perfectly frank with you. So I'm going to go Khalil Herbert. He's been getting an interesting amount of volume with Chicago in this preseason, and it feels like they're saving him up and using Swift more, and so you can read into that. And also, I think Herbert is actually good, and so I think getting a talented running back here in the 15th round is a pretty good thing. And so the draft concludes with defenses aplenty. And so let's see. We took a bit of a risk. We changed up the strategy a little bit. How do we like our team? Our starting quarterback is Josh Allen. Our running backs are Bijan Robinson and James Cook. That is an excellent 1-2. We have Raheem Mostert as our third, which I think in terms of a flex play is fine. Our receivers are Cooper Kupp, Xavier Worthy, and then it's Christian Watson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jalen Polk. So actually didn't end up too bad if we're right on Watson and Smith-Njigba, or if Worthy hits. So we're honestly not in that bad of a spot, given how early we went on quarterback. I still think, for those watching on YouTube, like this area here, this 5th, 6th, 7th is kind of the neighborhood I want to be living in when it comes to drafting a quarterback. Anything later and you're getting a little bit dicey, but still, I like that we got the tight end and Kittle there. So overall, I think this team is fine. We're ending up with a lot of the same guys on our teams, which is fine. But overall, I think drafting from the middle part of there, it didn't set us back too much. If you want to go quarterback early, that is fine. But I do feel like there are maybe some better options for you if you just wait a little bit further down.